Hey guys, just got back from the theater from seeing Thorns. I know a lot of people, like most people, are going, "What the hell is Thorns?" I go, to which my reaction is Thorns. They're like, "No, what's Thorns?" I said, "It's a movie. It's a horror movie that is in the long list of movies that I've over the last few months have put in the category of." Where the fuck did this come from? Because again, it seems like especially when during the months of September to October, I got a lot of these, mainly because of the writer strike and the actor strike going on. There was not a lot to fucking choose from, so theaters decided to pull some random shit out of nowhere, like and put them out in the theaters. And I usually was the only one in the theater, and I realized the only one in this movie too. And this movie too. And this movie got a fucking pre-screening, a fucking pre-screening. I don't know why. Like again, I probably was the only ticket they sold for this fucking thing. I know they had another showtime at 10 o'clock. Bet you nobody saw that shit at 10 o'clock. And apparently, somebody, my movie theater is like tomorrow starting. One of the reasons why I had to see this of all the fucking movies that by the way, I got 7 movies I got to see this fucking weekend, and of course I got to fucking work on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I gotta try to pack a couple in tomorrow, and then just try to pack a whole shitload on my days off. Um, so of course, this is the one I start with. Right? I hope this is the worst one of the bunch because if this isn't, man, I'm in for one long fucking weekend. So yeah, this movie I haven't really talked about this movie much because well, it's not very good. You want to know what the plot is? I would say this movie is not the worst movie I've seen. Not even probably the worst horror movie definitely not the worst horror movie I've seen in a theater. It's definitely not one of the worst movies, but of the bunch of random movies that I get. But this is definitely not a good movie. Um, this is a movie about the plot is that there's a observatory tower or tower that goes loses all communication, and some guy who works for NASA, who used to be a priest, goes to investigate why this observatory went silent. Which apparently only has one person working in this observatory. Huh. Apparently, only had one person because there was only one person in this observatory. There was no other dead bodies. Um, and I'm pretty sure observatories have more than one person working in them, but maybe I'm wrong. Um, and he goes there and finds all this weird shit where there's like pages of the Bible stuck to the walls of this observatory, and apparently this observatory got a signal from a weird planet, unknown planet that they think is hell, and it's gonna unleash end of times. That's basically the plot of the movie. Um, and this movie, I'll say this: there is one positive I can say about this movie, for the most part, is that this movie has some pretty good gore effects. The gore effects are pretty good. I'll give it that. I, for the most part, and towards until like towards the very end, where most of it was practical and most of it looked pretty good. And then there were parts where they decided to use some fucking CGI, and it was really fucking bad. Hell, the last shot of the movie has the worst CGI in the whole movie. It's really bad. Holy God, was that bad? And I saw that in the theater. This is a weird movie where this was a fucking movie that there was no production company logo in front of this movie. It just starts. I'm like, well, that's never happens. It's like the hell there's like times where I get like 10 minutes of production company logos, and this movie just doesn't have one. Like, huh? Like that's different. I don't know what it says about the movie. I know there was a production company. I forget what the fuck the production company. It was some indie production company that made this. Hell, it's all probably like this is what I mean when it comes to these random shit. Like you can't even find Wikipedia pages for movies like this. When like that's fucking crazy. Like when they're putting my theaters putting out movies that don't even have Wikipedia pages, I start to get concerned. Oh, these are the kinds of movies that you don't even see. You see barely any reviews for this movie or any of these kinds of movies. And this one, I think there's some IMDb pages, reviews that are not very good, but that's about it. Um, like I said, but the gore effects are pretty much one of the only positives of this movie, even though towards the end it gets pretty bad as far as when it decides to use some CGI. Other than that, that's about as mainly the positives I could say about this movie. This movie is really cheaply made. Holy God, is it cheaply made? And like, not saying that's a bad thing. It's like there's a lot of great cheaply made horror movies. Some of the best cheap horror movies were cheaply made. Halloween, Evil Dead. Uh, there's two that come right off mine. These are not those. This is not that kind of movie. This is one of those. This is not a good horror movie that was cheaply made. This is a bad movie, horror movie that was cheaply made. Um, from the sound effects to the sound design, how the opening scene with the guy in the car, like the sound in that movie, that car was so fucking distracting. How bad it sounded. Um, to the performances in this movie, mainly the main actor in this movie. God bless him. I don't know who he is. Maybe this will be one of those things where I end up getting responses from the actors, like I did with Unfavorable Odds, where this movie did remind me sometimes of Unfavorable Odds because of some of the bad production quality. But this movie wasn't as bad, not even close to as bad as fucking Unfavorable Odds. That was just how the fuck did that even get into theaters? I will never understand. I don't understand how this got into theaters either, but even for a cheaply made movie, this still was a better fucking movie. At least it didn't have a director named Boogie Vision. I will never forget that as long as I goddamn live. Uh, so yeah, the main actor in this movie is not very good. He's not. He has one emotion. I swear to God, no matter what is happening in this movie, he has one emotion. He could be stabbed. He could that big giant. Okay, this movie is like I'll get that in a second, but he'll be confronted by a big giant monster, and he's just like, "Oh, who are you?" Oh, I got stabbed. Oh, maybe that's giving him too much credit, showing too much emotion. I don't know, but like, man, he was not very good. And it was distracting. It was kind of hilarious. Like he had the exact same reaction to everything. Like, dude, like most people in this scenario go, "Holy shit, what the fuck is that?" No, no, this guy is just pretty calm, cool, and collected. Wow, that's something I've never seen before. Wow, that that's a stab. Somebody, this nun just stabbed me. What the fuck? Like, and then this movie. Anytime I've seen anything I've seen online about this movie, it mentions Doug Bradley being in it, and yeah, Doug Bradley's is definitely in it, quote unquote. But literally, he phones in his performance. I've never seen an actor actually literally phone in a performance. I'm not joking. His whole performance, except for one scene, which he's not even in the. It's obvious he's not in the same room with the main actor of the movie, but the whole movie he is. Other than that one scene, he's doing via telephone. He's video chatting with the main character in this whole movie. That's his performance. He's literally phoning it in. Like, literally, he's phoning it in. Like, I've seen people say, like, this is almost like Doug Bradley. That this feels like a like a Hellraiser sequel. I was like, well, I'm watching this, like, yeah, it definitely feels like a Hellraiser sequel. One of the Hellraiser sequels that was direct to DVD. That's definitely what this felt like. It felt like a movie that, like, you could probably slip in Pinhead, even though, like, Doug Bradley basically is playing an archbishop, but it's basically if Pinhead became Archbishop. And it doesn't also help that there's a creature that is the main antagonist of most of this movie. It looks like something that would become that would have been a Cenobite in a Hellraiser movie. And he's not Pinhead, but I call him Thorny or Thornhead. He's basically this guy who has a crown of thorns, Jesus' crown of thorns wrapped around his head, and it's like that's it. I have to talk about this movie for fucking 10 minutes. I don't know how the hell. There's not much more to talk about, but yeah, like I said, it's basically just a fucking like not Pinhead in a movie that features a character. The main antagonist is not Pinhead, but Thornhead in a movie that features Doug Bradley just phoning it in. Um, we also have the only other main character in the movie is this nun who, at one point, was speaking, but then later on, she's a mute. I don't know how the fuck that happened, but she was speaking perfect English in one scene, and then, like, for the rest of the movie, she's a fucking mute. I don't know how that happened, but I know she shows more emotion than the fucking main actor did, and she's a mute in this movie. That's the state of this movie. Um, I will say almost